All right, we're going to get going. Thank you, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. We have 8 different countries worth of people who have registered for this Eloqua user group meeting. I don't know if everyone will join, but I thought that was pretty neat to see people from the Netherlands, the UK, Brazil, Singapore, India, and the United States. So hopefully folks from around the world will actually be able to join. If not, listen to this later. But thank you for joining us. I just saw something come through the chat to us hosts, and unfortunately, too last minute for a quick change. So we're gonna keep moving. That was a question from somebody who helped us get prepared for today's Eloqua user group meeting for one of the topics. So I'm your host for the meeting. I'm Karen Pendler, KP. Most of you know me, but for those that don't, there I am on the left. I have the dark hair. This is my fiance and our pups. We have 3 big dogs and we go hiking a lot. This is in Middle Tennessee where we live. We went hiking last Sunday on a farm with 100 or so acres. It was awesome, just beautiful out. There's an app that you can use to rent land basically, and it's for you to go hiking or just take your pets and know that there'll be no other dogs there. That dog in the middle that we have is not dog friendly. So anyway, it's a pretty cool thing. It's called let me tell you. So for anybody that has dogs and wants to go somewhere like that, Sniff Spot. So sniff like with your nose spot. Anyway, my background is in marketing. That's part of what brings me to be your host. I've been in the Eloqua world for the last 16 years. Next year it'll be 17. And was an Eloqua user. I was a marketer using Eloqua. I used it at 2 different companies, flipped over to consulting 12 years ago. I actually did work at Eloqua for 4 years. Stayed a little bit, about a little bit less than a year from the time Oracle bought Eloqua. So I worked at Oracle as well briefly, and have stayed in this space. And at Sojourn, I'm one of our CSMs or customer success managers, and really try to help our clients that use Eloqua get the most value from it. We do help people with other marketing automation platforms, but Eloqua is where our company started. And personally, it's where my deepest expertise lies. So our agenda for today, here's what we're going to go through. I'm going to walk you guys through some really quick reminders. I'm going to talk fast, not just because I'm from New York, but because we don't have a lot of time. I want to make sure our next 2 topics are well covered. So we have our very own Sojourn. He's an account director at Sojourn. He's also a very intelligent Eloqua expert and marketing operations expert, David Sidor. He's based in Poland. Anyways, he's going to give our 6 tips for when you have your Eloqua move to OCI. You don't move it, Oracle moves it. We're going to give you all the juicy details, but some of you already have had your Eloqua move to Oracle's cloud infrastructure, which is what OCI stands for. So if you're on pod 6 or 7, this won't apply to you. Pods 1 through 4 are coming up in 2022. So, and then we're going to flip over to the next topic, which is to hear from Octopus. So Colin and Tom from Octopus are going to walk you through what Octopus is as a social platform and what are the benefits for you as an Eloqua user if you use Octopus. And I know some of you do. We have quite a few customers who use Octopus. So then we're going to end with a quick poll. I really want to ask you guys, I think I have 3 questions total. I want to ask you to help us plan and make these Eloqua user group meetings, or our UGs, better in 2022. I did the same thing a year ago in our December Eloqua user group meeting last year. So it's critical for me to get your feedback, candid feedback. It's multiple choice, and you can always reach out to me. I already have topic ideas for January and February because users like yourselves have emailed me to say, hey, can you cover first party versus third party cookies and why we should move to first party and when, and all of that good stuff. And somebody else asked about contact washing machine app for Eloqua and giving some tips about leveraging that and best practices. So we're going to do those in probably January and February. So anyway, feel free to always, reach out to me with your feedback and tips. And, even if you don't want to share them yourself, I know some people are shy, totally get it. But anyway, that said, if you do have a tip you want to share at the end of the call or a question you want to put out there, feel free to do so. We'll open it up. And you can always enter any questions you have during this meeting in the Q&A. You can do it in the chat as well. And this is being recorded. I'm going to send everybody the recording later today. And we don't have a real Santa, but this is the closest thing we have to it is Medea as our Santa for today. So if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. For those of you who are Jewish, belated, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa to those who celebrate Kwanzaa, and everything else under the sun that you can think of. Enjoy the holidays and the New Year's. All right, relevant reminders. So first of all, we're feeling hopefully from the latest release that went out a few weeks ago, some of the improvements in Eloqua, some of the new features. We talked about that in November's Eloqua user group meeting, because November is when most of us in our Eloqua instance saw the new features come in, and improvements with like the Salesforce Integration App. If you use that, some of the releases are heavily, adding new features. Sometimes they're improving existing features. Other times they're fixing bugs, but it's usually a combination of those things. Well, every quarter, Oracle does that for Eloqua. And for 2022, it's no different. The 22A or the Q1 new features, updated features, bug fixes, all that fun stuff for Eloqua are going to be coming out, as you can see here, in February. This is the schedule as of December 9th. It can change. It does sometimes change. That's very normal for software companies and cloud SaaS companies. So it's not anything to worry about if it gets bumped out. But just wanted to point that out. You can take a look at this. There's the Oracle Eloqua Release Center. And I wanted to point out, so when you're in Eloqua, how do you even get to that? Well, if you don't have this link I'm sharing, anytime you're logged in Eloqua, you can always go to community. This is the people have called over the years top liners. It still says top liners. It's meant for Eloqua users, other Oracle Marketing Cloud product users as well. You can see the whole list of the Oracle Marketing Cloud products. If you click on Eloqua, you can join the Eloqua Insiders group. So I've already joined it, so I could leave it. I'm not going to leave it, but you'll see an option for joining it. And if you're an Eloqua user, you can do that, and then you'll be able to access things like the Release Center information. So, and a bunch of other information to follow, announcements, things like that, that Oracle, the product team, is communicating out. So I highly recommend joining Eloqua Insiders. Move this around. So Eloqua free training, just to reiterate here, for anybody who hasn't attended one of these user group meetings, people have asked me over the years, where can we get free Eloqua training? Well, mainly 3 different sources. The Eloqua Help Center gives you step-by-step instructions, words, screenshots. It's one of the best help centers out there. For example, Pardot doesn't have that. They have words. They don't have screenshots. It drives me nuts because we support Pardot customers too. Anyway, the Help Center is kept up to date by Oracle. They've done a great job with that. It has videos in it. They're hosted through YouTube, but it links out to those videos. Those are free, of course, through YouTube. I highly recommend those. They've created, there's at least 10 specifically for Eloqua. And then Oracle University, there are some pretty short courses you can take for Eloqua. Think of it as like Eloqua 101 level training. They call it Eloqua Explorer, and you can take those. I think it's about 4 or 5 different classes. It's not too much time, maybe an hour or 2. I did it a while ago, so I don't remember all the specifics, but it's brief. It's gets you going with Eloqua. So if you are a brand spanking new to Eloqua, or let's say you have somebody joining your organization that's never used Eloqua or hasn't in years, this is a great place for them to start, and it's free. Of course, there's paid Eloqua training through Oracle University that you can attend with a live instructor, like through a Zoom, such as this. There used to be in-person classes. Obviously, with the pandemic, things have changed. Even before that, a lot of things are going virtual. But one more thing I want to point out is I get asked by people too, like, what are some other sources I can follow just on marketing best practices, marketing hot topics, MarTech specific, but not even just MarTech, like Eloqua's MarTech, it's marketing technology. So I highly recommend ClickZ, and here's the link to it. It's just clickz.com. And you can sign up for their, I think it's daily newsletter, and it really helps me stay in the know on marketing technologies and just marketing things that are happening, trends and different things. And then last thing here is, if you ever miss one of our Eloqua user group meetings, no worries. We always pop the recording onto our website in our resource center. Usually it's the same day of the meeting. By the end of today, it should be in our resource center. We have a whole section in our resource center for user groups, which it's just the Eloqua user groups. By the way, we use Uberflip and love it with our MarTech stack. It drives our resource center. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to hand it over to David again to give you guys 6 tips for when, if you're on pod 1 through 4, for when you do make that transition, or rather Oracle does it for you.
Thanks so much for the intro, Karen. So as Karen said, I'm going to walk you through a couple of tips for the move to the OCI data centers. To start with, let's do a quick recap on what this means. Like Karen said at the beginning of the meeting, Eloqua is being moved to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI in short. The switch to the new infrastructure is mostly transparent and has no impact for the majority of clients and their BAU activities. But a very small percentage of Eloqua customers will need to work with their internal IT teams and make an IP address update here and there, or change the firewall allow lists to ensure everything is running smoothly. As Karen mentioned, the maintenance window for this move has been completed for pods 6 and 7 earlier, and the other pods will follow in 2022. With that, let's move to our first tip. So that is to check your microsites and branded app domains setup. So again, a very small number of Eloqua clients that are using branded microsites and domains for and the app domains will need to update the DNS settings. You can check your whether your DNS settings are using the A record or the CNAME record to know whether you need to make any changes or not. If you're already set to using CNAME records for them and your settings are following the format that you can see up on the screen and that we'll share with you after the user group, then you're good. There will be no changes necessary. If you are using an A record, however, we do recommend, if there are no other obstacles to that, to move to the CNAME setup, as doing that will effectively remove any necessity of updating this setup in the future if Oracle needs to change the underlying IP addresses. So you may ask yourself, well, how do I check this? So you've got two options here. You can either go to your IT team or to your developers and ask them to check your domains for you, or you can use an easy online tool like MX Toolbox Super Tool to do these checks yourself. I've got two screenshots here that are showing what are the expected results if we see an A record setup. It's as after you type in your subdomain here and click on the DNS lookup option, it's going to tell you that the type of the record is A. It's going to state your subdomain name, and then it's going to show an IP address that it's mapped to. If it's using a CNAME instead, you can select from the dropdown what's the CNAME lookup, click on it, and then it's going to state the record type as CNAME, show your subdomain name again, and then it's going to state the subdomain, and hopefully it follows the format that you've seen on the previous slide. So just to show you how easy it is to actually do that, I've got the tool open in here. So if we, for example, type in sojournsolutions.com in here, we click on the arrow here, we can select a DNS lookup, click that, and it tells us that sojournsolutions.com is set with an A record. Then if we wanted to do a CNAME lookup instead, you scroll down the list until you see the CNAME lookup option, then you click that. And if we had a CNAME record instead, here is where we would get the result. So simple and straightforward. Going back to our tips, just finishing on this, the actions on ensuring that your DNS settings are correct for your microsites are due by March 31st, 2022 for Pod 6 and Pod 7 customers. And please ensure that, if you are affected by this, you need to perform the change. Do that before that date. Otherwise, your microsite might stop working correctly. And please also be advised that using the same domain as both the bounceback domain and the microsite used for web traffic is not recommended. However, if you are unable to separate the subdomains, the CNAME approach will not be feasible for you, and then you will need to update the A record with the new IPs once Oracle has published them for your pod. And for Pod 6, for example, the action will need to be taken between January 12th and March 31st, 2022. There are also more details in Jody's blog posts on the move to OCI data centers, and we'll also share those links with you offline. Moving on to our second tip. If you're using SFTP integrations, you have to keep in mind that the IP addresses for pods will be changing. You should check your current connections and reach out to your IT teams to inform them that there is going to be a change coming, to ensure that they can take that demand in and schedule it to be completed when necessary. What I would also recommend is to think about any kind of internal specific security zones or proxies or firewalls that might sit between Eloqua and your internal network, or even sometimes between your regional networks if you're a multinational organization, and your SFTP server, because they will also require updating with the new IP address to ensure that the traffic can flow smoothly between the platforms. The new IP addresses are already available for pods 6 and 7, and for pods 1 to 4, they will be communicated by Oracle closer to the maintenance window. And if you're unsure whether you're using SFTP connections in your Eloqua instance, that's also something that you can check relatively quickly. If you go to your Eloqua instance, then to Tools, Data Export and Import, and have a look at your exports or imports. I've got an export sample set up here. In the destination, it says upload to SFTP. So that's how I know that I'm using an SFTP connection. Moving on to tip number 3, custom apps. If you're using any homegrown or partner-developed custom apps that are connecting to Eloqua, they will require an update to your firewall and proxy setup to allow connections with the new public address for your pod. And if you're not sure what apps are connected to your instance, you can check your cloud apps list in the settings area. And just so you know, the new IPs for pod 6 and 7 have already been published and they're available on Oracle's blog. Moving on to tip number 4, IP warming. So the reason why we have this tip for you is mostly to calm you down that, if you have heard any gossips or any information that there might be IP warming required, there's only a very small subset of pod 1 customers who would need to perform the IP warming, and Oracle have already contacted all of the affected customers. So if you haven't heard from Oracle by now about this, you don't need to worry. There's no IP warming that you would need to do. Then moving on, Salesforce Integration App as our tip number 5. If your Salesforce instance is using any kind of login IP restrictions, you need to add the new IP addresses to the allo list. And we've got the IP addresses for all the pods listed. And just to remind you, the deadline for actually completing this action was in March 2021. But we've added this tip in as we had some of our customers who weren't really experiencing any issues until the maintenance window, and afterwards they started noticing it and had to work with their Salesforce admins to ensure that the allo list is updated. And lastly, we recommend that you monitor top-liners. Like Karen has shown you, there's a great series of posts from Jody Mooney from Oracle about this move to the OCI data centers. And there you can get all the newest updates on timelines, IP address changes for the remaining pods. And also, we recommend that you subscribe to Eloqua Emergency Communications so that you receive email notifications if there are new Eloqua releases, there are planned product changes, or any critical platform issues. And if you're unsure how to subscribe to those communications, just go into your Eloqua instance, go into the users area, find your user in there. And if you scroll down, there's communication preferences section, and there's an option to receive emergency communications from Eloqua. Just set this to yes, save, and done. You're going to receive those communications. And those were all the tips. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to Karen now.
Thank you, David. And just to hit on a couple of things, because rumors are never a good thing. Not everybody has to do IP warming. It's very small set of customers. Again, just small subset on pod 1 alone, not all the pods. So just keep that in mind. That was something that I didn't even know about until like a week ago, actually. So we just want to make sure not everybody kind of thinks they have to do something that they don't, because IP warming is no small task to do. It's not a huge task, but so just to take care of that rumor. And then I put into the chat the link to Jody's article about the move to OCI. And again, Oracle's really doing the move for you, but David was sharing the things that you have to do as a user or somebody who is a part of perhaps being the administration team for your Eloqua instance. And if you don't have Eloqua admin access, what he just showed there for the emergency opt-in, you cannot access that. You'd have to have your Eloqua admin do it for you. However, if you're not one of your Eloqua admins, probably you don't need those emergency communications. Hopefully your Eloqua admins are on top of it. I always recommend at least 2 people get those communications, the emergency communications, because if one person's out, somebody else hopefully is working and will do something with whatever that emergency announcement is, if anything is even needed from you. So, all right, with that, let me pull up my screen. So thank you, David. And by the way, this is a picture of David. He is in a band and is truly a rock star. He plays guitar, and it's pretty cool to hear his music. If you're interested, you can just Google David Sidor, the rock star. So next topic, people confuse Eloqua, Marketo, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Pardot. They think they have all of these cool social capabilities, and they have limitations with social for sure. So there are point solutions that are really good at social marketing management, social media marketing management. There's different terms like marketing automation is Eloqua. Well, Octopus is one of the best platforms out there for managing social. Colin and Tom, who are both based in England, are going to walk us through. They're both from Octopus, first of all, but they're going to walk us through what Octopus does and specifically tie it back to you guys as Eloqua users, how it can benefit you, because they do have an app for Eloqua. So that's one of the key reasons we wanted to make sure you heard from one of the best platforms out there for social that also works with Eloqua. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing, and Colin and Tom, hand it over to you guys.
Excellent. Thanks, Karen. I will just start sharing my screen. Hopefully everyone can see it. So everyone, thank you very much. Karen, that was a long laundry list of countries that you read out that people had registered from. I think as far away as Singapore, and as close to home to you as the United States, right? And everything in between. So we've got a good mix of people, and probably at different stages of awakeness. Yeah, so if you're here, if you're joining us from Singapore, thank you for giving up the midnight hour for us. I'm Colin Day. I'm the Managing Director of Octopus Business across Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. And as Karen said, I'm joined by my colleague, Tom Harrison. Tom, give us a wave. Tom is one of our amazing customer success managers here at Octopus. If you're an Octopus client, you may be one of Tom's clients, and thank you for your business. What we want to do over the course of the next 10 to 15 minutes, as Karen said, is give you a little bit of an immersing and a dunking into the Octopus platform. What is it we do? And more importantly, what does it mean for any of our customers that are using Eloqua, or any Eloqua customers that are considering bringing social into their platforms, and what is the art of the possible? If you walk away from that over the course of the next 10 to 15 minutes, Tom and I have done our jobs. Remember our names, remember Octopus, spelt OK2Post, octopus.com. Remember that, go check it out. If we don't give you that information over the next 10 to 15 minutes, forget our names, forget we ever existed, and go and find Santa Claus. So here we go. So from an Octopus perspective, what is Octopus? Right? Octopus is a social engagement platform. And by social engagement, we mean we collect data and insights about who is engaging with any social posts that are put out through the Octopus platform. Octopus supports multiple different social elements. So social publishing, when you're publishing content over your corporate pages on the likes of LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. or indeed when you're providing some of that content to your employees to help amplify the reach of that content. There we support your employees' own personal accounts on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Zing if you're in Germany, WeChat if you're out in mainland China, as an example. So publishing, advocacy, social analytics, so being able to report against all of the social engagement that's taking place, as well as social listening. So being able to look for a specific hashtag, right, and see how that's being utilized out there in social, being able to snoop on your competitors and seeing like what they're posting and what they're talking about and how much engagement they're getting, how many hashtags they're using in a post, when are they getting the most engagement, what time of day, what day of the week. All of that is all possible through the Octopus platform. But the key thing for us is being able to collect data, right? Because we think that modern day marketing, if I can get my words out, modern day marketing functions and organizations operate off of data. That's why you've got Eloqua, right? That's why you've got a marketing automation platform. Yeah, is to be able to do things at scale, yeah, and to be able to take business decisions or make business decisions based upon the way that someone is engaging with your marketing assets and your marketing tactics. So Octopus, 4-in-1 solution: social media management, employee advocacy, social listening, and being able to report against that content. Why do we do it? Karen, I don't know if you want to come back in for a minute, because I've got a question for you. How old is Eloqua?
21 years old, I believe, 1999.
And I knew you'd know that because you just told us how long you've been working in the industry and that Eloqua was your favorite thing, right? So 21 years old. What social platforms were around 21 years ago, right? When we created these tools? None. Certainly not in the B2B world, right? So if we think about the technology that we're using and the way that that technology was used and the purpose it was built for, great, right? Great at being able to manage email engagement and the email channel. Great at being able to look at who's taken what call to action, right? Who's clicked through an email, etc. Great at being able to take someone from unknown to known on your corporate website, and amazing at being able to suck in third-party data and use that for part of the analysis. But there's a huge missing component, right? And a huge component and a really important channel, for us as B2B marketers or us as marketers in general today, right? And that channel is social. And that's what the Octopus platform does. We have a native integration into Eloqua. And when I say native, I mean it's turnkey. Literally, you go into the Octopus platform, you put in your Eloqua credentials, as long as you're an administrator on both platforms. You put in your Eloqua credentials, push a button, and I'm English. I love a good cup of tea, right? So you go off and boil the kettle. It takes about 2 minutes, so I'm told. By the time you come back, the integrations with Eloqua and Octopus are complete, and we've actually then gone and created a set of custom activities within inside Eloqua that we're then putting that social engagement data into. So whenever anyone engages with a piece of social content, that information is passed dynamically from Octopus to Eloqua, where the contact record pre-exists. So what does that really mean, right? So let's take an example, right? As marketers today, it's like we've got tracking cookies put on our websites, like we've got maybe Google Analytics connected to that website, and we're seeing that someone lands on the website, it's like did a Google search for Octopus, let's say, came onto the Octopus website, filled out an Eloqua form on that website and converted. Great. Guess what? My marketing team, as it stands today, that's the first time that that person, let's call them Tom, right? That's the first time that Tom becomes known to the Eloqua environment, right? Is when they take that conversion step and fill in that form. Yeah, and we know that as day one, right? That's when they become marketable. And if we looked at GA, Google Analytics, it will tell us, where Tom came in from, and we're going to chalk it up to our SEO colleagues, like having great success from an SEO perspective. Well, guess what? 78% of B2B buyers, will go out and research on social, right, before they even take that step of landing on your website and come into to convert. So you're missing, or we're missing, a heck of a lot of information and insight today, and that's what Octopus brings to the table. So what we think is day one in this example is actually day 21, because Tom clicked on a tweet that I put out there. It's like 21 days ago. Thanks, Tom. It was that Wall Street Journal article referencing like our recent funding of $20 million. I'm sure, right, Tom? 7 days later, Tom clicked on an Octopus corporate Facebook post, where we were talking about how the team had been growing. And then guess what? On day 14, so 7 days later, Tom clicked on a LinkedIn post. All of that information, because those posts were actually put out through the Octopus platform, all of that engagement that Tom has had has been collected inside the Octopus platform. And when he took that final step, when he landed on the corporate website, and filled out that web form and converted, and he's now in Eloqua, we're able to match up the data set between Octopus and Eloqua, and we're able to put all of that social engagement, so we know what Tom has been saying. If he commented, say he commented on this first post, on this tweet, he retweeted it and said, do you know what? Cool technology. It's like congratulations, guys. We're capturing that comment, we're capturing that insight and putting it into Tom's contact record inside Eloqua, so that we can then use that to enhance lead scoring, attribution modeling, segmentation, to actually move Tom from one nurture stream to another based upon what it is he's actually engaging with inside social. At the same time, though, we also have an integration to Salesforce, and I know Karen mentioned Salesforce earlier on. We have an integration to Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics 365. So guess what? We can actually notify the sales team as well. So Tom's part of an active opportunity that maybe I'm running. And guess what? Tom's saying some nice things, or maybe not nice things, on social about about what he's engaging with. I get notified about that in the moment, so I can then jump into that conversation, and I can start to influence the journey and the direction that Tom is going. How do we do it? I'd say quite simply, but hey, it's like nothing simple, because it's technology, and that's our IP, and that's the magic. But we're unique in this regards, right? We're the only platform out there, that is capturing this data and empowering you to be able to take business decisions off of it. The way we do it is you publish content out through the Octopus platform, be that over corporate or employees, as I say. And once people start to engage with that content, we build up a view of that those social profiles, that engagement, in an area of the Octopus platform called a people database. Now let's call each of these records. Let's call this one Mr. Purple, this one Mr. Pink, and the bottom one Miss Green. Okay, so we've got 3 individuals that have been engaging with us. The first one on Twitter and Facebook, second one Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and the third one the same. Now, it stands to reason that some of, all of, none of these people exist inside your marketing automation and CRM system. Let's just say that some of them do. Some of them exist inside Eloqua. And with Octopus, right, where they're having that social engagement, we're collecting that insight. We then have a matching algorithm that says, okay, right, let's create a predictive match score for anyone that we find inside Octopus, and anyone that we think is the same Slack record inside Eloqua. And we match on a vast array of elements. It could be the first or third party cookies. It could be the company name. It could be the person's name. It could be the geo. There's a number of elements that bring to bear to make up that predictive match score. Mr. Purple, yeah, we've set the threshold with inside the Octopus platform, and you can control it, but we've set it in this example at 100%. So we've got a record that we believe is 100% a match between Eloqua and Octopus. What happens in that instance? That social engagement data flows automatically through to the record inside Eloqua. With Mr. Pink, he's below that threshold. What happens? We serve it up to the marketer inside Octopus. We say, hey, we've got one here. We've got one over in Eloqua. We think they're the one and the same, but you make the determination. And if you say, yep, they are, so like, let's go and link them up. All of the social engagement data that we've built up over time, as well as everything from that point forward, will flow into the Eloqua environment. Miss Green doesn't exist inside Eloqua. So we've now surfaced a potential suspect. Hey, they may be a student, so we may want to delete them from the database and not track them in the future. But let's say that they're not. Let's say that we've done a bit of research. We've looked at their LinkedIn profile. They look a good candidate for us to go and market to. So in that instance, we serve them up inside the people database of Octopus, and you're able to push them across to Eloqua to create a new contact record in the Eloqua database. So what does the art of the possible look like? As I say, when we turn on those integrations, or when you turn on those integrations, we set or we create a set of custom data objects. They look very much like these on the screen. We will share these slides with you afterwards. If you do like what you see and hear, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be glad to do a much more detailed demonstration for you at an appropriate time. We see such things as the social link clicks appearing in the activity log. We give you the ability to pull that social engagement data into any of your canvases, so that you can use them for segmentation purposes. Just some examples. And obviously you can build rules off of them. You can run reports looking at social engagement, activity, etc., all from within inside the environment and the space that you know well, which is obviously the Eloqua environment. When you get this PowerPoint deck after the session, just a couple of things to call out. Here's a couple of URLs for you. We actually created with the good folks over at Oracle a definitive guide to social engagement inside the Eloqua platform. That is a resource that is available to you. Please feel free to go and download it. It's on our website, and it's under resources and our ebooks. Couple of use cases there as well. So like this one in particular, DKSH, Eloqua users, and they actually saw the lead traffic. Yeah, so traffic going to their website, like they saw it increase by 100%, when they started to utilize the Octopus platform to empower their employees to amplify their message out across their employees' own personal social networks. So some amazing figures and some statistics there. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Octopus platform in a nutshell. Karen, back to you.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Tom. Guys, if you have any questions for Octopus, okay to post. I never knew that was the origin of the name. Makes too much sense.
It's not. Actually, my CEO would kill me for saying that. So don't. No.
Just kidding.
It's a little octopus select. So it's about the many tentacles of reach into social. But I just said, hey, do you know what? It looks like okay to post, right?
Which I like, but okay, I'll never say that again.
It's okay to post with Octopus. There you go. Let's just trademark that one, right?
Yep. And it's interesting, guys, like there are other platforms out there. We have some customers who use Hootsuite. Usually it's either Hootsuite or Octopus. Some people, though it's smaller amount, use Sprout. And then there's others out there that really don't even compete with those three. So like Eloqua was built for B2B marketing. Can you use Eloqua for B2C? Yes, it can do both, but it does B2B typically even better. Octopus was built for B2B marketers. Hootsuite was built for B2C. Both, have capabilities perhaps for everybody, but usually when you have tools like this, like marketing automation, social platforms, they have an audience that they're built for. And that's just something to keep in mind, especially if you're a B2B marketer and looking at like Hootsuite and Octopus and Sprout and others. So, and also G2 Crowd, these guys have a 4.5 out of 5 stars rating, which is hard to do. We try to maintain at least a 4, and it's hard to do with the community giving you the ratings. So take a look there if you'd like. But anyway, we're going to move on to the poll, but thank you again, guys. Definitely appreciate your presentation. One other thing I want to mention about blind spots. So marketing automation platforms don't out of the box do a great job of tracking social. So this is where Octopus and similar tools enter the equation and help us to cover and not have that blind spot. So it impacts the things they've shared, those primary use cases of segmentation, personalization, scoring, and measurement. So how can you measure the impacts of your social efforts if it's not integrated with your marketing automation platform? Well, you struggle, you do it manually, you create a homegrown system to do it. There are newer technologies out there that can help you do it, but it's still not a perfect science. But when you have a marketing automation platform like Eloqua, say Octopus for social, Google Ads perhaps for ads, and I'm sure other technologies, that gives you the capability to have these things sing together to not have as many blind spots or any. And by blind spots, just to kind of back up, we're talking about all the different marketing activities that you generate, thankfully, and you want to track. And it's not easy. I'll just say that. But when you have tools that can do it well individually, like best of breed solutions, have them connected like Eloqua and Octopus, then you minimize those blind spots. You don't want blind spots because then we don't know how well that social the content we put on social impacted our campaigns with Eloqua and vice versa, and other campaigns you're doing outside of both of those platforms like ads. So I'm having a lot more conversations with people as we're getting forced as marketers to do a better job measuring our efforts and beyond email performance, beyond website performance, beyond form performance, beyond social performance in silos, because typically we can all get those metrics in silos. It's combining them that removes the blind spot so you can see how the different pieces are connecting together and impacting each other. So that might be a topic we cover in Q1, but I'm going to move on. Let me pull up my screen share here. So thank you again, Colin, Tom. Definitely appreciate you guys joining. It's almost dinner time for you guys over there in England. All right, so now I'm going to launch a poll. For those of you who are still here, we've got a couple dozen. Would definitely love your input. This poll, again, is intended to get your feedback. 3 questions. I'm going to ask you. The answers you provide are anonymous. I can't tell through Zoom who is answering these, but just want to ask these questions so I can do a better job as the Eloqua user group manager of picking topics, presenters. So without further ado, I think you guys get it. Let me launch the poll. And if you can go through and answer the questions, I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. The first question is, do you plan on attending our Eloqua user group meetings in 2022? Maybe not every single one of them, I get that, but maybe yes, no, or you're not sure. The second question is, do you like Oracle presenting about their other Oracle Marketing Cloud products? I've gotten feedback. Some people love it. Some people are like, it's too salesy. I try when I prep with these people from Oracle, like SEs and product managers or heads of the product that they're talking about, to make sure it's not coming across salesy. And I think most of them do a really good job. And well, not everybody, but so last question is, which topics in these Eloqua user group meetings do you like best? I've asked that over this past year. That's been a question I've asked you guys, and just always trying to check in and make sure we're presenting the right topics. I'll give you guys a few more minutes. My sense, having been an Eloqua user for 16 years, I've gone in person to Eloqua user group meetings many times in Maryland, Virginia, Boston, I think like once in New York City a couple years ago, and then a lot of these virtually, obviously hosting them over the last almost 2 years. And I always like the ones personally where an Eloqua user presented, like about tips. Specifically, I love the tips inside of Eloqua. Show me something in Eloqua that I can walk away and hopefully learn and do something with that tip. Or a success story. We had Jen earlier this year did an awesome success story presentation. I will tell you guys, that is the hardest thing for me to get on these to book, because I don't have a lot of you reaching out and saying, I'd like to volunteer to present in an Eloqua user group meeting. And I've asked people one-off and don't get a lot of yeses to present, but I want to do more of those. But let me see. Let's end the poll. I think we've given it over 2 minutes, so I'm going to end it. Looks like there aren't many more votes coming through. So looks like, yes, actually everybody here says they do plan to come to our Eloqua user group meetings in 2022. Thank you. That's awesome. We'll keep them going. And then, do you like Oracle presenting about their other Marketing Cloud products? Looks like 64% said yes. Nobody said no. I guess that's good. And then there were some mixed feelings. So my takeaway there is probably, my hunch is that those of you who have mixed feelings on it, it's because some of those presentations do come across too salesy, and we don't want that. We're not trying to sell you in an Eloqua user group meeting. That's why I'm very careful about who presents. That's the last thing you want when you're going to a user group meeting. People can sell you outside of here. And then, which topics do you like best? The leading was Sojourn Consultants giving Eloqua tips. And then in second place, Oracle product team presentations about Eloqua new releases and roadmaps. I love that. That's my favorite. And then Eloqua users giving presentations, me giving tips on the hot topics. I'm trying to stay on the up and up. That's how I like ClickZ. I mentioned that earlier. I follow ClickZ, and I always at least glance at the newsletter every morning to see what I'm going to read. I typically don't even read the whole newsletter, but the headlining article that they have is usually the hottest topic in their mind, so they make it the headliner. And that's usually what I look at. Like Apple mail privacy, that's where I started to learn about it. So anyway, oops, I didn't share the results. Sorry, I'm reading it like you guys can see it, but I just shared the results so you can take a look at what I just stated. So definitely appreciate you guys doing that. We will make sure then that we get more Eloqua tips, like again, showing things in Eloqua. I think we did that like every 3, maybe once a quarter this year. So we'll do it more next year. I'll continue to keep you guys up to date on the hot topics, like earlier Apple mail privacy changes, the Apple hide my email change that came out with the mail privacy changes. And a lot of people are like, what the heck is that even? So I've been trying to educate people on what it is and how it could impact you as Eloqua users. And it impacts other marketers as well. And then there are a few people from the Eloqua product team here. So guys, I'll be reaching out to you. Some of my favorite people, I worked with some of them years ago at Eloqua, and these are some of the smartest people that are out there in this space. And so Jody and others, I will be reaching out to you guys to hopefully, if we can have you present maybe once a quarter, but we shall see. All right, let me stop sharing the poll and we can move forward. Let me check for questions. It doesn't look like anybody put anything in the Q&A. And then Colin just typed some stuff in for you guys to take a look at, some things he shared in his presentation. I think we're good there. No questions. Feel free, guys, if anybody has a question. So now what we want to move on to is just opening it up. We actually have about 10 minutes. My tip is, if you haven't watched Schitt's Creek yet, to watch it. I'm not a fan of like the most trendy shows people are watching, because I don't know, they're not always that good, but this one is good. And well, it's outdated now. It's no longer being recorded new seasons or anything, but half-an-hour episodes, and it's, I think, pretty universal humor. And just if you're having a bad day, typically will lift you. Okay, so if you have a question or a tip, feel free to pop it in the chat or the Q&A. If you want me to unmute you, just chat me. I'm going to give it a minute here to give you guys a chance to respond. Try not to be a classic New Yorker that rushes everything. You should have Christmas music playing. Let me see. I don't think anybody is. Let me see if anybody's raising their hand. be funny if one of you guys did the Zoom raise your hand just to mess with me, but didn't really want to talk. Don't do that, but it would be kind of funny. Okay. Oh, we have a question in the chat, I think. Okay, actually, somebody just gave a comment. So Jody, thank you. So Jody Mooney is one of those smart people I talked about that she's been in the Oracle for years, Eloqua prior to that, and she's one of the main people that leads the product management team and brings the updates to people, makes the content nice and organized for you to swallow as Eloqua users of what's coming out in new releases and the product roadmaps. Anyway, I'll work closely with Jody next year. And then Brian, thanks for your feedback. Actually, it's 22 years. I had to do the math literally on my calculator on my desk. Eloqua started in 1999, and then since it's 2021, that's 22 years that Eloqua has been around. And I've mentioned this, so if you're bored, you can tune out, but Eloqua started out as a website chat tool. The name Eloqua was shortened from eloquent, speak eloquently to your website visitors. So Eloqua was kind of like a drift tool when it was first created a long time ago, 22 years ago. Marketing automation didn't exist then. So it was one of the main technologies that they shifted. They didn't stay a website chat tool, obviously, it's not today, but Eloqua shifted into what is now marketing automation and has been for at least the last 15 years. Unica, Primo, they were a couple others out there that were just like starting out the marketing automation space, like helping people to not have a piece of paper at a trade show for somebody to fill out with a pen or a pencil to enter to win the Harley Davidson for that raffle. Like that was old school marketing. That's where I started out, was paper, lots of paper cuts. You stacked things of, whatever somebody filled out for their entry to win that, whatever it was. iPods were hot for a while, motorcycles, cars. And anyway, lead scoring now, as you guys know, it's automated. Back in the day, we would take those stacks of papers from those entries and put them in piles, A, B, C, D. The D's like we couldn't read. The C's we could kind of read. The A's were like we could actually read it, and it was within our ideal customer profile, our personas we were going after. So anyway, but coming back to Brian's comment, he mentioned 20 years in marketing and 1 month in Eloqua. Well, welcome to the Eloqua world. Eloqua's not going anywhere. I get asked by people like, Eloqua's been around for so long. Is it still relevant? You think it's going to be around for a while? Absolutely. Thankfully, with Jody and Tamina and Tracy and Chris, there's various people, Stephen, who leads the entire team of product managers. There are, for specifically Eloqua and other solutions, but they have good people who are really trying to think, what does Eloqua need to evolve into? And Oracle is trying to keep a gauge on that, because the competition is tough with not necessarily Pardot, but say HubSpot, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Marketo, as those products continue to evolve, and niche solutions like marketing automation for, say, the financial services industry, competing with those can be tough. So they're definitely keeping a gauge on that. And I appreciate that Eloqua doesn't play where they shouldn't. Like they're not trying to have a social add-on to replace Octopus. They tried that at Oracle years ago. They retired that product, social relationship management, for various reasons, but they're owning what they're good at and keeping, to the partner network like Octopus and others, what those folks are good at, so you can use best of breed with your marketing automation platform. So I know we're running out of time. I don't want to talk to just talk. Somebody else mentioned that if you like Schitt's Creek, the TV show, try Kim's Convenience. It's a 30-minute sitcom as well. So I'll take a look at that. Thanks for the tip, Amy. All right, with that, I think we're good, guys. So just want to say happy, healthy holidays. Hope everybody enjoys them. If you want to join us in January, we're going to continue with doing these the third Thursday of the month. It's always the same time. And we probably will change the place, the Zoom link and dial-in code because of security reasons, but it'll be the same time, 11 Eastern, 4 o'clock in the UK. I've gotten a couple complaints from people on the West Coast that it's too early. So 9, I guess that would be 8 a.m. their time, but we can't make it perfect for everybody. I'm doing my best, but we did a poll actually on the time, and most people did prefer this. So I apologize if it's not convenient for you, but hence the recording. So Keep in mind that we're gonna in Q1, well, it's Q1 for us, so January through March, we're gonna make sure we cover, probably in January, my goal is to have first-party cookies covered. Most Eloqua users or people who have had Eloqua for some time are using third-party cookies to track your website visitors. Well, those are becoming something of the past soon here. In 2022, if you haven't got it on your list of things to do for your marketing resolutions or goals, having first-party cookie tracking should be a priority. But we'll share tips on why third-party is going away and first-party is the better one. What do you do because you don't rely on third-party cookies anymore? There are a lot of articles out there about it, but we'll help you guys as Eloqua users specifically. And then I've had a few requests come through about the contact washing machine app for Eloqua, so we'll give some tips on that in the app. We'll try to stay out of PowerPoint. So some good stuff coming in well, early next year. And again, please, folks, email me. These are topics that the first one I already knew, like I need to cover that, or somebody needs to cover that soon for Eloqua users. But actually Amy reached out and said, can you please cover this? Like we need to cover it soon. We probably should have covered it at least once this year, but we're going to cover it in January. Another Eloqua user reached out today about the contact washing machine app. And again, others have over the years. So if you have a topic you want covered, I definitely listen. And we'll let you know when, as soon as I know once it's slotted, when it's scheduled, I'll let you know. I'll confirm if it's a topic that makes sense for the Eloqua users. If it's not a good topic, then I'll just let you know that. I'll be honest. I think anybody that knows me knows I'm pretty straightforward. Try not to fluff things. So anyway, send me your feedback. I really appreciate those of you who have, and just appreciate you all for joining. Happy holidays, everybody. And hopefully you get a little bit of time off and enjoy that. Take care, everyone. Toodaloo.